I spent a decade sacrificing everything to buy my dream home. My dad yelled, "We need to talk about the house." But my response shocked him. "We need to discuss the house. My name is Emma, and I am 28 years old." That text arrived last month on a Saturday evening, while I sat alone in my brand new living room. After 8 agonizing years of saving every penny, foregoing countless nights out and lavish trips, I finally received the keys to my dream home. As soon as I held them in my hands, I sent out invites to my entire family for a housewarming meal. I imagined laughing, warmth, and the beginning of a new chapter. I spent several days preparing. I fluffed cushions in the guest rooms, made all of their favorite foods until my kitchen smelled like home, and meticulously placed family photos, hoping to bridge the growing gap between us. But as the hours passed on Saturday, my exhilaration became into bewilderment, then bitter sadness. Not a single family member showed up. Not one. I was left sitting alone, surrounded by unopened boxes, cold food, and a quiet that shouted louder than any dispute. Then my phone vibrated with Dad's text. You see, my story begins in a small 2-bedroom apartment on the east side of town. My parents, George and Susan, worked many jobs just to keep a roof over their heads. Mom worked as a waitress in the mornings and cleaned offices at night. Dad worked construction and security jobs, whatever he could find. My younger siblings, Rachel and David, shared the second bedroom, and I slept on a pull-out couch in the living room until I was 18. Money was always scarce. I recall witnessing my mother stretch a single pound of ground beef into 3 distinct meals, each with more beans and less meat. My father tracked every kilowatt on the power bill. "Leave a light on in an empty room and you'll receive the lecture. Electricity costs money we don't have," he'd moan, switching the switch with a heaviness that carried all his financial concerns. Despite this, we took our Sunday drives. Once a month, Mom would persuade Dad to borrow his brother's car and we'd drive through the affluent neighborhoods on the other side of town. Those streets, surrounded with exquisite buildings, completely intrigued me. I'd push my face against the window, selecting out my favorites, and imagine what life may be like inside. "Check out the one with the crimson door, Mom," I'd shout, pointing to a craftsman-style home with a spacious front porch and hanging flower baskets. Mom would smile, her eyes light up. "That one is stunning, Emma. All those windows would let in a lot of natural light." However, Dad's response remained consistent. "People like us don't possess houses like that," he'd add, his knuckles becoming white on the steering wheel. "It's best not to fill your head with unattainable dreams." Those remarks stayed with me, not as a discouragement, but as a burning challenge. By 15, I had persuaded the proprietor of a small diner to hire me on weekends and after school. I saved every penny, storing my profits in a lockbox beneath my pull-out bed. When my parents discovered out I was working, they wanted me to contribute to the household expenses. I did, but I still managed to save half of each paycheck for the future. High school graduation came some surprising news. Mrs. Garner, my guidance counselor, pulled me into her office on an April afternoon, virtually humming with enthusiasm. "Emma, did you check your emails today?" she asked. I had not. We couldn't afford another luxury, internet access at home. When she showed me the scholarship announcement on her computer screen, I burst out crying. A complete ride to State University, which includes housing. I was going to be the first in my family to attend college. I anticipated my family to rejoice over this triumph, which marked a watershed moment. Mom hugged me firmly and whispered, "I always knew you were special." Dad nodded, a flash of pride followed by his normal realism. College is expensive, even with scholarships, books, materials, and living expenses. Avoid being too big for your boots. Rachel, then 15, appeared to be really delighted. David, barely 13, was too young to understand the significance. College tested me in ways I hadn't expected. The grant provided tuition and basic lodging, but little else. I worked at the university bookstore in between classes and waited tables at a nearby restaurant on weekends. Sleep became a luxury, but I maintained my grades and continued to save. The cultural transition was arguably more difficult than the financial pressure. Many of my classmates hailed from wealthy backgrounds and discussed European vacations with their parents, physicians, lawyers, and business leaders. I learned to manage conversations carefully, giving little about my background, and always feeling the wide gap between our experiences. When I called home, the talks became more strained. Mom wanted to know every bit of campus life and lived vicariously via my experiences. Dad largely inquired about prices and whether my jobs interfered with my schooling. Rachel and David spoke less and less. Our shared childhood experiences were no longer sufficient to close the widening distance. Graduation day arrived after 4 rigorous years. I surveyed the audience several times, eagerly trying to spot my complete family amid the proud parents and siblings. Only Mom emerged, sitting alone in a dress I knew she had saved months for. "Where is everybody?" I asked when we would meet after the ceremony. "Your father took on an extra shift." She said that they are short-handed at the site, but she did not meet my eyes. Rachel had a school project due on Monday, and David was not feeling well. I nodded, swallowing my painful disappointment. We took pictures together, just the two of us, with my hard-earned diploma. Later I recognized that day established a pattern that would shape our family relations for years to come. Most of my family rarely acknowledged my successes, no matter how meaningful they were to me. Their absence at graduation was only the beginning. With my marketing degree, I secured an entry-level employment with Blake & Associates, a mid-sized marketing business in downtown. The beginning wage was not particularly high, but there was genuine room for advancement. I discovered a studio apartment 20 minutes away from the office via bus. The area was under 400 square feet, and the kitchenette was so small that I could touch opposite counters without completely reaching my arms. But it was mine, and the rent enabled me to keep saving. My financial plan was precisely planned. The paychecks were divided. 45% for necessary costs, 35% for savings set aside for a future home, and 20% for anything else, including the occasional movie or dinner out. I recorded every single dollar on a spreadsheet, watching my housing money rise gradually. "You need to live a little," my colleague Lily would say while waving concert tickets. I would decline. "You are only young once." She wasn't wrong, but my concentration was steadfast. The remembrance of my father's statements about unachievable ambitions strengthened my resolve. I wasn't only saving for a house, I was proving something to myself and my family. Professional development occurred steadily. In my second year, I was promoted to account manager. Year 3 saw another rise to senior account manager. The accompanying wage increases were sent directly into my house fund rather than improving my living condition. On weekends and evenings, I started a side company managing social media accounts for local small businesses. What started as a single client, the florist around the block from my apartment, has grown to 8 regular accounts. This extra money accelerated my savings tremendously. However, these financial aspirations took precedence over my personal life. Friends stopped inviting me on expensive outings because they knew I'd say no. My apartment remained modestly furnished with used furniture. Vacations were non-existent. Even holidays turned into working days as I took advantage of firms that required social media coverage during breaks. In my 3rd year at the firm, I met Ethan in the elevator. He worked for the legal office 2 floors above us, and his smile shone against his dark blue suit as he inquired about the stack of social media strategy documents I was holding. Our romance progressed slowly. Coffee dates progressed to supper, movies, and then weekend getaways. Initially, he was understanding of my schedule and supportive of my aspirations. 7 months in, he recommended that we move in together to save money on rent. "We could get a nicer house for less than we're spending individually," he reasoned. "You'd get to your house fund goal much faster." The rationale was clear, yet something kept me back. Perhaps it was dread of combining my carefully managed financial world with someone else's, or concern that my savings discipline might deteriorate with a companion. Whatever the reason, I declined, and Ethan accepted my decision graciously. 4 years into our partnership, however, cracks began to appear. Ethan started referring to my saving practices as an obsession. Arguments occurred when I denied invites to friends' vacation weddings and refused to spend money on experiences he valued. "There's more to life than preparing for a future that might never come," he stated during our final struggle. "You're missing everything that's happening right now." The split was sad, but it also provided clarity. I realized I was unwilling to compromise on my goal, even for love. The house symbolized something more than tangible property. It was solid proof that individuals like us could accomplish what my father thought was impossible. My family's reactions to my professional development were complex. Mom was genuinely proud of my professional accomplishments, but she appeared increasingly uncomfortable during her few trips to my apartments. "This neighborhood is so different from ours," she'd say, looking uneasily at the young professionals entering the coffee shop under my second flat. "Dad refused to visit at all. Downtown is too fancy for me," he'd respond when invited. "Too many one-way streets and no place to park." My connection with my siblings also changed. David, like Dad, was now working infrequently in construction and only contacted when he needed money. My offers of assistance with budgeting and job applications were treated with defensiveness. "Not everyone wants to work themselves to death for some American dream fantasy," he exclaimed when I offered a trade certification program. Rachel married her high school lover at a young age and had 2 children quickly. Our chats focused on her children, with little interest shown in my life. When I revealed my rising house fund following a particularly successful quarter in my side business, she immediately shifted the subject. During a client meeting, 9 years into my work, I had a revelation. The CEO of a local firm revealed that she bought her first investment property at age 32. The perfect time to build wealth is when you have income, but before you have major family obligations. Her tone was casual. At 30, I recognized that my timetable may be hastened. My savings, together with my good credit score and consistent income from both my major work and side company, placed me on track to acquire a home 2 years earlier than intended. That evening, I contacted a mortgage broker to schedule a preliminary consultation. The appointment with my mortgage broker, Oliver, reinforced my suspicions. 8 years of rigorous saving and work advancement had prepared me extremely well for home ownership. My pre-approval amount exceeded my expectations, but I stayed determined to stay below the maximum to keep financial flexibility. "You've done the hard part already," Oliver remarked, looking over my perfect credit and significant down payment. "Most first-time buyers struggle with the saving phase. You're in an enviable position." His words justified years of sacrifices, all those canceled invitations, and bare furnishings in my series of small apartments. The next step was to find a real estate agent. Through a business connection, I met Claire, a straightforward agent who specializes in first-time buyers. Our initial chats established clear parameters. Craftsman or colonial design, at least 3 bedrooms for family visits and a home office, a well-established neighborhood with character, and a manageable commute to downtown. "I've been visualizing this house for 10 years, I told Claire. "I'll know it when I see it, but these are my non-negotiables." The house hunting experience was more emotionally exhausting than expected. Over the course of 2 months, we viewed 40 properties. Some were close to my vision yet contained catastrophic flaws. Water issues hidden beneath fresh paint, antiquated electrical systems that would necessitate costly upgrades, or places that would add an hour to my daily drive. By property 30, exhaustion had set in. "Maybe I'm being too picky," I said Claire, leaving an almost beautiful colonial with a faulty foundation. "Maybe I should adjust my expectations." "The right house is worth waiting for," Claire informed me. "Especially for someone as patient and purposeful as you." Property 35 changed everything. Driving down a tree-lined street in the historic Oakwood district, I noticed it before Claire even paused. A craftsman home featuring a spacious front porch, antique woodwork, and a red door. My heart raced as we parked. "This looks promising," Claire commented, taking note of my expression. The interior surpassed my expectations. Original hardwood flooring throughout, with built-in bookshelves flanking a brick fireplace. A remodeled kitchen that preserved the home's heritage while providing modern utility. Upstairs, 3 bedrooms with angled ceilings and dormer windows provided ideal accommodations for guests and a home office. Standing in the master bedroom, with sunlight streaming through mullioned windows onto wide hardwood floors, I experienced an unexpected surge of emotion. "This is it," I said, running my palm across the century-old doorframe. "This feels like coming home to a place I've never been before." Claire nodded, realizing the gravity of the situation. "The asking price is at the top of your range, but given the location and condition, it's reasonable. If you're serious, we should act immediately." We submitted an offer at the asking price with a personal letter to the owners explaining why their house would be the ideal first home for a first-generation home buyer. I barely slept that night, running numbers and visualizing my furniture in those sunlit rooms, and by the morning, I had made my decision. After receiving 3 other offers, one of which was even higher than the asking price, I threw myself into work, trying not to check my phone every 10 minutes for news from Claire. 4 days later, my offer was accepted, and the owners, an elderly couple who were downsizing to be closer to their grandchildren, were moved by my letter. They preferred my offer over the higher competing bid because they wanted their cherished property to go to someone who would appreciate its character. The financing process introduced unforeseen problems, and my self-employment income from the side business, while substantial, posed verification challenges. The underwriter sought extra verification, which pushed the closing date back by 3 weeks. "This is usual for self-employed borrowers," Oliver informed me. "Your finances are sound. It's just a matter of properly documenting everything." Those 3 weeks seemed forever, and a competitive buyer remained interested, ready to step in if my finance fell through. I submitted tax returns, profit and loss statements, and client contracts, assembling a comprehensive financial portrait to satisfy the underwriter. Finally, approval came through, and closing was scheduled for the following Tuesday. I signed numerous documents, initialed dozens of pages, and received the keys to my first home. The moment felt surreal, the culmination of a journey that began with those Sunday drives through neighborhoods just like this one. After the closing, I asked for time alone in the empty house, walking from room to room, allowing the significance to sink in. In the living room, I sat on the floor and cried. Tears of accomplishment, relief, and vindication. The daughter of tenants who couldn't afford to leave lights on now owns a piece of the American dream that had been so totally unattainable. Taking images of each room, I produced a family group text, something I rarely did. Just closed on my first house. I can't wait for you all to come and help Christian properly. I'm thinking of throwing a family dinner 3 weeks from Saturday once I'm situated. Save the date. The comments came in slowly. Mom sent a congratulations. Rachel responded with a thumbs up emoji. David didn't respond at all. And Dad eventually said, "Houses like that have high upkeep costs. I hope you budgeted for repairs." The lackluster response stung. But it didn't reduce my success. Standing in what would become my bedroom, watching the sunset light paint the walls amber, I promised myself that this house would become a home full of warmth and welcome, regardless of whether my family could join in my joy. The 2 weeks between closing and my planned family gathering flew by in a whirlwind of activity. I arranged for my meager apartment furnishings to be moved quickly, realizing how inadequate they looked in the larger space. The living room sofa, which had dominated my apartment, barely filled a corner of the new space. My dining table for two seemed lost in the proper dining room. I reminded myself to take it one room at a time, prioritizing essential spaces. I found a second-hand dining table that could seat 8, perfect for the family dinner I was planning. A quick coat of paint refreshed it, and new chairs from a budget-friendly store completed the set. With the basics in place, I focused on preparing for my family's first visit. I splurged on a new mattress and quality bedding for my parents' guest room, knowing that Dad's back problems frequently made sleeping away from home difficult. This wasn't just about showing off my new home. It was also an opportunity to reconnect and bridge the growing distance between us. Perhaps seeing my success in person would help them understand my choices and sacrifices. The second bedroom was set up for Rachel, her husband Mark, and their children, with an air mattress set up alongside the queen bed, and the small third bedroom, which would eventually become my home office, would accommodate David. When I went grocery shopping, I filled my cart with ingredients for everyone's favorite dishes, including Dad's favorite pot roast with carrots and potatoes. Mom's fondness for blueberry cobbler, Rachel's fondness for Caesar salad, David's fondness for buffalo chicken dip as an appetizer. The bill at checkout made me wince, but this celebration warranted the expense. Throughout the house I created thoughtful touches, such as a photo wall in the hallway displaying family photos from decades. Mom and Dad on their wedding day, Rachel and David as toddlers playing in a kiddie pool, all 4 of us on a rare beach vacation when I was 12, and welcome baskets greeted each family member. Recent images were glaringly absent, which I hoped would change with this visit. For Mom, a gardening book and seed packets for the backyard plot we could plan together. For Dad, a custom keychain with the house address symbolizing his welcome anytime. For Rachel's kids, age-appropriate books and coloring supplies. For David, a local brewery gift card for the tour I thought we might take together. I sent formal invitations with detailed directions, parking information, and a warm note expressing how meaningful they were. Mom called and asked what she could bring. I assured her that everything else was taken care of. Rachel texted that Mark had scheduled time off work and they were excited to see the new place. David responded with a brief, "I'll be there," which lifted my spirits. Dad remained silent, but Mom assured me they would drive together. The shift began 5 days before the dinner, with Rachel calling first. "Emma, I'm so sorry, but Emma has come down with an ear infection. The pediatrician advises her against traveling this weekend. Could Mark stay with Emma while you and Jack arrive?" I suggested, hoping to salvage some of the visit. "Mark's mother was counting on us visiting her on Sunday, so he needs to take Jack there while I stay with Emma," she explained, her excuse becoming more complicated. "We'll definitely come another weekend once everyone's healthy." I accepted her explanation, disappointment settling in my stomach. That evening, David texted, "Boss just scheduled me for Saturday. Someone has called out, and I need the hours." David rarely took on extra shifts and constantly complained about his manager's last-minute scheduling. Still, challenging him would only add to the tension, so I responded with understanding and an offer to reschedule. Thursday brought Mom's call. The one I'd been dreading after my siblings established the pattern. "Your father's back is acting up something terrible," she began, her voice carrying familiar notes of apology. "He can hardly get from the bedroom to the kitchen today. There's no way he could sit in the car for an hour each way." "I could come pick you up," I offered, desperation edging into my voice. "Or just you could come, and we could FaceTime Dad during dinner." "You know, he wouldn't want me traveling alone," she replied. "And he'd feel terrible being left out completely." By Friday afternoon, my family dinner for 5 had dwindled to a party of 1. I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by groceries for meals no one would eat, staring at the dining table set with new plates and carefully folded napkins. The house that had felt so full of potential now echoed with emptiness. I tried calling each family member, offering alternative dates, different arrangements, anything to salvage the gathering. Voicemails and unanswered texts multiplied. Only Mom responded, reiterating Dad's health concerns and promising they'd visit soon. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear, the spring sunshine seeming to mock my solitude. The welcome baskets sat untouched on unslept-in guest beds. I moved mechanically through the day, putting away perishable groceries and covering prepared dishes with plastic wrap. By the afternoon, I gave up pretense and changed from my carefully selected outfit back into comfortable jeans and a t-shirt. Setting down on the living room floor, surrounded by still unpacked boxes, I began the work of organizing books and kitchenware, trying to focus on the physical task rather than the emotional weight pressing against my chest. The house that was supposed to be filled with family laughter remained quiet except for the occasional ping of my phone, work emails and social media notifications, but nothing from my family. The silence from them spoke volumes, especially from Dad, who had not directly acknowledged my invitation or expressed his regrets. As the evening approached, I ordered a pizza because I didn't want to cook any of the special meals planned. Sitting cross-legged on the floor among half-unpacked boxes, I scrolled through design websites on my tablet, forcing myself to focus on future plans rather than present disappointment. That's when Dad's text message arrived, causing my heart to leap with momentary hope. "We need to talk about the house," it said. My fingers paused over the phone screen, pizza forgotten beside me. Dad rarely texted, preferring brief phone calls or having Mom relay messages. There were no congratulations or apologies for missing supper, only 7 words that held an unsettling weight. Despite the late hour, I called right away, my heart beating. He answered on the second ring, his brusque greeting devoid of warmth. "Dad, I received your text. Is everything okay?" I inquired, attempting to maintain a calm tone despite the growing worry in my chest. "Your mother is upset," he began abruptly. "She has been crying on and off since you sent those house pictures." Confusion rushed over me. "Crying? Why? Is she okay?" "No, Emma. She's not okay." His voice hardened. "None of us are okay with the show you're putting on." I echoed, perplexed. "What are you talking about? This magnificent property in that upscale area. The dinner invitation makes you feel like a hostess from those magazines your mother used to read. It is not you, Emma. At least not the you we raised." The accusation landed like a physical blow. I sank back against an unopened box, struggling to process his words. "Dad, I've worked for this house for years. You know I saved every dime and worked many jobs. This isn't a show. It's the result of 8 years of hard work." He scoffed. "Is that what you call it when you abandon your family? When do you quit attending Sunday dinners because you are too busy with your office job and side hustle? When you move to communities where your father is uncomfortable visiting?" Each question grew in volume until he was almost shouting. In the background, I could hear Mom's muffled voice asking him to calm down. "I never turned my back on anyone," I protested, raising my voice to match his passion. "I invited everyone here this weekend. I've arranged rooms for every one of you. I cooked all your favorite foods because we don't belong in a house like that," he exploded. "Your mother saw those hardwood floors and fancy kitchen and knew she'd be afraid to touch anything." David said he felt sick after seeing those photographs, knowing he'd never be able to purchase anything close to that on construction pay. Rachel also felt it. "Said you were showing off, making it apparent how far you'd progressed beyond us." Tears welled up in my eyes, his comments wounded harder than he could have imagined. "I wanted to share this with you without making anyone feel awful." "Well, you failed," he stated flatly. "Your mother believes you're embarrassed by where you came from, that you bought this house to escape your roots, to escape us." "That's not true," I whispered, though doubt began to creep in. Had I unconsciously chosen a neighborhood so different from my childhood home as a form of rejection? "Isn't it?" Dad continued. "When was the last time you brought any of those work pals to meet us? When was the last time you talked about your family at that fancy office? Do your coworkers even know your father works in construction and your mother cleans houses? The inquiries touched nerves I had no idea were exposed. I had compartmentalized my life, keeping my background separate from my professional world, not out of shame, but out of a desire to be judged on my own merits rather than my origins. I'm proud of where I came from, I insisted, my voice breaking. Everything I've accomplished is due to what you and Mom taught me about work ethic and perseverance. Save it, Dad said. Actions speak louder than words, and your actions indicate that you're creating a life that excludes us. This house is just the ultimate proof. Mom's voice grew louder in the background, and Dad may have partially covered the phone, as their conversation became muted. When he returned, his tone had changed from angry to resigned. Your mother wants me to tell you that she loves you no matter what, he said mechanically. But I need to be honest with you, Emma. This alters things between us. You constantly bragging about your accomplishment, making the rest of us feel small. There will be consequences for our connection. I continued, my tone tinged with disbelief. Are you really threatening to cut me off because I bought a house? Why did I succeed? Call it what you want, he replied coldly. Just remember that choices have repercussions. Always have. The phone abruptly terminated, leaving me astonished in silence. I moved through the rooms in a daze, touching the walls, door frames and countertops that had brought me so much joy just days before. The pizza congealed in its box, forgotten, and the emptiness of the house felt oppressive rather than peaceful. Each room was a testament to what I had supposedly chosen over my family. My father's accusations had tainted each beautiful feature, and the guest rooms mocked me with their emptiness, the welcome baskets pathetic in their optimism. In the master bedroom, I caught my reflection in the mirror, wearing designer jeans and a casual top that cost more than my father probably spent on clothing in a year. When had that happened? When had I started spending $90 on shirts without blinking? When I grew up watching my mother darn socks rather than replace them? Had success changed me in ways I hadn't realized? Had I, in my determination to rise above financial hardship, inadvertently elevated myself away from the people who had shaped me? These questions circled like vultures as I sank onto the edge of my bed. My family's eyes were swollen from tears by dawn, but my mind had achieved a clarity that had been missing. The night stretched out before me, a dark canvas for painful self-examination. Sleep evaded me completely as I replayed years of interactions, searching for the moment when advancement became alienation in their eyes. The house wasn't the problem, nor was my success. The real problem was deeper, rooted in complex family dynamics and expectations that I had both fulfilled and defied. Morning light filtered through curtainless windows, casting long shadows across my bedroom floor. My night of painful reflection had crystallized something important. I could not control my family's reactions, but I could control my own. After a shower and coffee, I sat at my new dining table with my laptop open. The words didn't come easily, but they came honestly. I drafted, deleted, and redrafted my response several times. This wasn't just a response to Dad's accusations. It was a proclamation of limits I should have established years ago. The final text was lengthier than I usually wrote, but each word felt vital. Dad, Mom, Rachel and David, I started. I'd spent the night thinking about our conversation and the thoughts underlying your absence yesterday. This is difficult to write, but I need you to hear me. First and foremost, I love you all deeply. Nothing about my career path or this house purchase changes that. You are my roots, my foundation, and the work ethic that built this life came directly from watching Dad work double shifts and Mom juggle multiple jobs. Every sacrifice you made for us kids taught me the value of perseverance. When I look at this house, I don't see an escape from my past. I see the physical manifestation of the lessons you taught me. I won't apologize for working hard and achieving goals. I won't pretend I haven't earned this to soothe feelings of inadequacy that I never created or intended. But loving you doesn't imply that I have to diminish myself to make you happy. Most importantly, I will not sell this house or downplay my accomplishments in order to maintain relationships that should be strengthened rather than threatened by my success. The door to this home will always be open to each of you whenever you are ready to walk through it without resentment or judgment, and I have designed spaces specifically for you. A guest room with a firm mattress Dad needs for his back, a backyard where Mom and I could garden together, space for Rachel's kids to play, and local breweries I thought David might enjoy exploring with me. I'm not choosing this house over family, and I believe we can grow together rather than apart. I'm choosing to believe that love isn't diminished by square footage or mortgage payments. This door will always be open to you, but I won't close it on my dreams. I hope someday you'll understand that my success honors rather than rejects everything you've given me. I love you always, Emma. My finger hovered over the send button for several minutes. I pressed send and set my phone aside, deliberately turning my attention to unpacking books onto the built-in shelves. The responses came in stages, each revealing something about my relationships. Mom called first, her voice thick with tears. I never meant to make you feel bad about your accomplishments, she began. I am proud of you, Emma. Always has been. It's just difficult to see you construct a life so different from what I could provide. You provided everything that mattered, Mom. I replied gently. Love, morals, strength. The rest is just stuff. Our chat lasted over an hour, and it was the first completely honest session we'd had in years. She confessed to being terrified by my work and financial security, admitting that my father's reaction originated partly from his own sense of failure. He wanted so much more for us than what he could achieve, she revealed. It's complicated for him. I accept this, but I need him to understand that my success is also his success. Everything I am began with you both. We finished the phone with preliminary preparations for her to visit alone. Rachel texted the next weekend, her message unexpectedly vulnerable. I lied about Emma being sick. To be honest, I was jealous and ashamed. Mark and I can barely pay our apartment rent, and seeing your lovely home made me feel like a failure. I am sorry. Your message caused me to cry. Could we start over? I called her right away, and our conversation revealed years of competitive feelings I'd never recognized. As the older sister who appeared to do everything right, I represented a standard she felt she couldn't meet. My achievements had unknowingly become a measuring rod against which she assessed her own life choices. I've never thought less of your choices, I told her. You have. Lovely children and a loving marriage. Those are accomplishments that cannot be quantified in dollars or property deeds. We concluded the call with plans for a proper visit the following month, once she had worked through some of her complex emotions. David remained radio silent for 5 days before sending a brusque, "Need time to process. Not ready to talk yet." It was the most honest communication we'd had in years, and I respected his limit without asking for more. Dad's response was the most difficult. A week passed with no word, until a birthday card arrived in the mail with a gift card to a home improvement store. Despite the fact that there was no accompanying note, the choice of gift acknowledged my new homeowner status, a small, almost imperceptible step toward acceptance. The weeks that followed were a mix of sadness and liberation. I missed the easy family relationships I'd once taken for granted, but there was also relief in no longer maintaining the illusion that everything was fine between us. I threw myself into making the house truly mine. Painting walls, arranging and rearranging furniture, installing window treatments, and making decisions based on my preferences and needs rather than what others might think, which felt like a breath of fresh air. When a colleague inquired about my weekend plans and I mentioned refurbishing the guest bathroom, she casually asked, "Will your family come to view the improvements for the first time?" I replied without deflection or sugar-coating. "We're dealing with some tough thoughts regarding my move." Her knowing nod and shared story of similar struggles with her own relatives made me realize how universal these experiences were. The pretense of perfect family harmony I'd maintained had only isolated me further, and this realization sparked another important decision. I joined a networking group for first-generation professionals to connect with others navigating the complicated territory between their roots and their achievements. Their stories of similar family tensions helped me understand that I wasn't alone in these struggles. After I received my doctorate, my father did not speak to me for 3 years. The most significant shift in my thinking came from therapy, which I began 6 months after the failed family gathering. Maria, a professor who lived 3 doors down, had an 8th grade education and saw my degree as a criticism of him. It took some time, but he eventually came around. Weekly sessions helped me untangle complex emotions around success, family loyalty, and identity. Your achievement doesn't diminish anyone else's worth, my therapist emphasized during a particularly difficult session, and their discomfort with your success isn't something you need to fix by becoming smaller. This perspective freed me from the guilt that had hampered my achievements. I began openly celebrating milestones, such as a major promotion at work and the completion of the front porch restoration, without first considering how my family would perceive these accomplishments. 10 months after moving in, Dad sent an unexpected text message. "Your mother says the gutters need cleaning before winter. Do you have someone handling that?" The message contained no warmth, no personal connection, yet it represented something monumental. Concern for my home's maintenance, acknowledgement of its importance, and perhaps an oblique offering of practical knowledge. I got quotes but haven't scheduled anyone yet, I replied carefully. Any recommendations? He responded unexpectedly swiftly. These firms overcharge. I could take a look next weekend if you want. My hands trembled slightly as I typed my acceptance. When I contacted Mom to check, she revealed Dad had been thinking about this offer for weeks, summoning up the nerve to extend this olive branch in the only manner he knew how. The following Saturday, my father's truck appeared in my driveway, dressed in work clothes, nodding curtly as if he were arriving for any ordinary job rather than his first visit to his daughter's home. Mom accompanied him, her nervous smile revealing the significance of the moment. Nice place, he offered gruffly, assessing the exterior with professional detachment. They don't build them like this anymore. In the backyard, Dad examined the gutters while I held the ladder, and Mom's fingers trailed across the kitchen countertops she'd only seen in photographs. I gave them the tour I'd planned 9 months earlier, and I noticed Dad's eyes widen slightly at the craftsmanship of the original woodwork. The familiar routine of working alongside him, passing tools, and following directions bridged some of the gap between us. You did good, Emma, he said quietly as we packed up his tools, not, I'm proud of you, or, I'm sorry, but an acknowledgement of my accomplishment that cost him something to give. I accepted it for the monumental concession it represented. That evening, sitting on my porch swing, watching the sunset paint my garden in golden light, I reflected on the complex journey of the previous year. The house that had initially appeared to fracture my family connections now offered a different kind of foundation. One where meaningful relationships could potentially be restored brick by brick. I recognized that home wasn't just about the physical space or the financial achievement it represented. It was about creating a sanctuary where I could be my authentic self while keeping doors open to those who shaped me. My family's acceptance journey is still in progress, full of tentative steps and unspoken truths. Some wounds would take years to fully heal, if they ever did, and the path forward would not be easy or straightforward. But for the first time I feel like I'm building a home not just for myself, but for the possibility of a future where my roots and wings can coexist. This house, this dream, isn't just a place I live. It's a testament to every sacrifice, every challenge, and the unwavering belief that you can build the life you want, even if those you care about struggle to see it with you.